Let's talk to Dr. Elisabeth Kendall, who's a Yemen and Middle East expert and president of Girton College, Cambridge. Thank you very much for talking to us. What do you read into the reasons that the US is taking this action now?
I think the US felt compelled to take action now because essentially the Houthis are continuing to hold the Red Sea to ransom. Although they had ceased their attacks temporarily after the Gaza ceasefire was announced in January, they have now said that they'll resume them again because they're not happy with the way that Israel is getting aid into Gaza. And this situation that's been going on and off for 16 months now simply couldn't be tolerated. So I think the US has perhaps three main motives in mind. One is to protect freedom of navigation, as it says, and to preempt further Houthi attacks on Israel. I think one is a regional, so it does want to pile further pressure on Iran and help suggest to Iran that it should reach a deal on nuclear breakout or face the consequences. Look at what's happened to Hamas, look at what's happened to Hezbollah, look at what's happening now to the Houthis. And there also might be one further reason, which is domestic. It does look like the civil war in Yemen is hotting up again, and degrading the Houthis militarily would put them in a weaker position if the civil war flares up again.
How do you think the Houthis, backed by Iran, will respond?
I think the Houthis will respond as hard as they possibly can. So it very much depends on how quick and how effective these US strikes are. Now, we have heard that unlike the year-long strikes that happened under the Biden administration with some help from the United Kingdom, these strikes are set to last for days, possibly even weeks, be concerted as an effort and be sustained over time. So this will put them in a different category. That said, we know from experience that the Houthis are good at weathering strikes. They've weathered over 25,000 airstrikes by the Saudi-led coalition between 2015 and 2022. They've weathered the on-off strikes by the US and UK and some much less precision strikes by Israel, about 5 or 6 of those over the last 8 months or so. So the Houthis do feel fairly invincible. They are confident. They do believe that God is on their side, and they will react as hard as they can.
Briefly, could this be more disruptive to shipping in those shipping routes in the short term?
It could be more disruptive in the short term. It depends what's being taken out in the first few days of the US-led strikes. But I would expect things to get worse before they get better. But it's very easy to see why the US is doing this now, because over the recent weeks, the Houthis have received more sophisticated military technology. It looks like their drone reach might be now, with hydrogen fuel cells, as far as 3,500 kilometers. And at the same time, their suppliers, Iran, of most of their weaponry, don't seem to be able to have a grip on the Houthis. The Houthis are not a direct proxy. So the Houthis need to be dealt with directly by the United States.
Dr. Elisabeth Kendall, thank you very much indeed, President of Girton College, Cambridge and Middle East expert. Let's take a look at today's